Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm happy to learn about the Cardinal Kuning House. I'm impressed to learn about this concept of open church. When I was traveling here yesterday, I was thinking, what is the reason for me to be here? Of course, I thought they would like to learn about my work, my scholarly approach to new organizations. I can tell them about Wurzorg, but I'm always thinking about there should be a higher reason behind my visit here. So then I think I know the answer. I'm trying to be very integrative in my life. Every day a bit more integrative, every day a bit more what I learn from others, to bring that back in my daily practice. And when I heard about Cardinal Kuning, then I thought, wow, that's a very good way to connect to people. The dialogues, to connect to several religions. And especially in the current day we live with a lot of problems around. I will tell you a bit about the VUCA world we live in. And so there are many conflicts between people from several belief systems, from several perspectives. So I think it's a very serious topic, bringing people together and crossing bridges. So then I thought that's maybe the reason for me to be here. And Christianity is not that far away from my upbringing, though I was brought up as a Hindu. Till the age of 12, I had influence from the Catholic Church. Because I did my primary school at the Maria School in Suriname. So, and I recall a lot of nice auspicious days in the church, celebration around Christmas, and I happen to know a lot about the Catholic Church. So I think there is a reason for me to connect myself, my interest in all these aspects. And the other connection I would like to make is just tell you about how I think organizations can change, can try to learn from their own history, and at the same time try to listen to all those new activities around and how to integrate those. I also happen to learn that this activity, this event, is very new to you. It's also an attempt to integrate people from different departments, to see how different purposes, different perspectives can gel, and how you can learn from each other and you know, enrich all the activities that you do. And when I was talking to Karen yesterday, I listened very carefully, and she said, it's not something that is extra what we do with this. Actually, it's just, it's another way of doing the things we always do. And that's so interesting, because that's the way forward, I think. It's not seeing all these activities as something new, because the moment you see it as something new, there will be some resistance. But if it's already a part of your natural tendency, then it's just another way of doing. Okay. And since it's a new activity, I would like to invoke the divinity. And if you allow me, I would like to chant, recite a few mantras, very short, and get some inspiration from that. Okay, good. Okay. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. With this mantra, I did it 3 times. I invoke Lord Ganesha, the removal of obstacles, to help us to awake the divinity in us, the divinity in how we relate to each other, and all the good things that are waiting for us in the whole universe. And my second mantra, Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And with that, I ask the divinity to lead us, since this is a conference on leadership, to lead us from untruth to truth, to lead us from darkness to light, to lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. Then I would like to continue with the presentation. And the title is Courage for Simplification in Organizations in a FUCA World. And I will share a lot about Butsar. So FUCA is an acronym for these 4 concepts: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Volatility, what is it? It's about things becoming very fast. There is a lot of things happening which asks from us to be more dynamic. Uncertainty, where are those days where people had contracts? These days, a lot of organizations work with flexible workers. Contracts from, final contracts are hardly there in organizations. A lot of uncertainty people have to face. Complexity. There are many ways to connect to each other due to internet technology, and that brings always a kind of anxiety because there is a lot of information, and this information overload requires some kind of intelligence from us to navigate around all the information. Ambiguity. It's very nice that we connect to so many types of people around the globe, but at the same time, we feel that everyone has an own interpretation of what is truth. And that can become very, very difficult for us to navigate. If someone brings in his own perspective, his own belief system, his own upbringing, and try to make interpretations of situations, it may lead to conflicts if we are not able to listen well what the others are trying to say. So you can say we are facing FUCA context. And it's not only in the healthcare, of course, many other industries are facing this, but especially since I'm going to talk about Butsar, I just want to highlight what is the FUCA context in the healthcare. The main question is, can we afford to grow old? There is a tremendous increase in the aging population in all countries in Europe, and the costs are rising. So how do you manage that? If we look at the healthcare context in Austria, the pattern is the same. There is an increase in cost. So how do you manage this? The message that I want to give you today is that if you see FUCA as a threat, as something bad, it will bring a lot of anxiety. So, and if you talk to people, not everyone is feeling the same anxiety. So you can say that FUCA can be felt as something bad, but it can also be felt as something which brings opportunity. So this graph is displaying this, that for some people, it gives a lot of opportunities. So if people are able to do that, then FUCA is not a problem. It gives a lot of opportunities. So that's the main message which I want to give when I talk about VUCA. Then I want to move to the Buurtzorg story, the journey towards simplifying the healthcare. And it was initiated by Joost de Blok. He was facing the VUCA context, and he wanted to make some changes. He noticed as a nurse that the way he was trained to do the work, he could not bring that into practice. There was no autonomy, there was no freedom to work as a professional. So he felt that something was wrong. Because he also had management positions, he could see the other side as well. He could see how things were organized, and he noticed that there was a lot of more bureaucracy which was not needed, a lot of rules, regulations, where people got lost, and the client was not anymore a human being, but the client became a product. Because the healthcare started to import a lot of thinking from pure profit-oriented industries, and that was very much disturbing the natural tendency of what was required in the healthcare. So then he developed this wish to set up an organization which is more holistic, which is embracing the human tendencies, the human values, which puts the client at the center of the system and not the system at the center, which was already happening. So Buurtzorg was created 10 years ago. What is it that makes them very special? It is neighborhood care, buurtzorg. If you explain it in English, it's buurt, neighborhood, zorg, care. So they deliver their care in residential homes. It's around communities. They work with teams all over the country, and the teams have a maximum of 12 people. Usually it's 10, but maximum is 12. And these people, they take care of 40 to 50 clients in a particular neighborhood. The nurses are highly educated, usually bachelor level, and they do not work as traditional nurses specifically for nursing and other nurse assistants specifically for social care activities or personal guidance or consultants activities, but they work as generalists. And I think that's one of the rich aspects in this Buurtzorg model. Because they could manage also with the business model to simplify that. Instead of asking for separate fees for all these separate activities, they asked from the insurance companies one general fee to cover all the costs. So that was a very nice way of looking at simplification. We talk about self-organization. What is it? Because usually people ask themselves, are these independent teams, are these independent kind of companies? No, they are all employees of Buurtzorg Nederland, but they work in a self-organized way where they do everything themselves. So actually they are running their own business, you would say. They are responsible for bringing in clients, they are responsible for searching for new employees, they do their planning, the scheduling, they think about what kind of education do they need, where to find the finance for that, how to coordinate everything, how to connect to the neighborhoods with all the other professionals like GPs and other nursing organizations. Another interesting feature is the way it is being organized, very, very flat, no hierarchy. 2 directors are there, 45 staff members in a small office, taking care of all the administration which are required. There are no independent departments, but there are people able to do all the kinds of activities like finance, HR, many other kinds of activities. And they work together very closely in teams. There are 20 coaches. These coaches are not leaders, they are facilitators, and they work in several regions. So they are organized in all these several districts, 20 only. And there are 800, more than 800 teams. There are at the moment 14,000 nurses serving 70,000 clients. And to see huge growth in 10 years. What they do is they make use of VUCA in a nice way. The internet technology makes it so easy for them to connect with the teams because they don't see each other physically in one location. They are all over the country. But with virtual platforms, they can connect. So VUCA has become an opportunity for them. The fast internet technology is what they have embraced from day one. And they're trying to build all the communications in such a way that it has this informal character, very personal. At the same time, it's done in a very efficient way. Of course, there are some other expertise required, and all the expertise that they require, they bring them in. It's not part of the core business, but they work with training institutes, they work with eCare, the IT company, and of course there is a supervisory board for a lot of knowledge. The informal networks are very important. The way they work in the neighborhoods is very important, and the informal networks internally are very important because they don't have the systematic way of meetings, etc. They try to see what is needed and how that could be arranged in a very flexible way. So what is it that makes them interesting is, of course, no hierarchies, no external leaders, no internal leaders. All the nurses do their work as nurse, and all the additional tasks are, being rotated amongst themselves. They have defined team roles. Some are taking care of the planning. Some are taking care of the external contacts. Some are taking care of what is to be learned in medical area and how to be up to date with your own profession. So there are many ways to connect to what is happening. At the same time, they stay at the core business, which is serving the client in the best possible way. So there is a lot of room for craftsmanship, a lot of room for entrepreneurial attitudes, orientation. People work in a way that they organize a lot themselves. They don't have any boss to ask for, is this okay, is that okay? They have access to coaches to get some help, but the teams themselves, they are responsible for everything. Another thing is the quality system. They have adapted an existing quality system, the Omaha system from US. It's not that they have copied it. They have seen what is interesting and how can it be implemented in our own context. So one of the most successful things about Buurtzorg is that they have brought back this fragmentation in the care towards the client. There were clients complaining that they have seen in 1 month to 3 months maybe 30 different nurses. So at Buurtzorg, they say, we try to have 3 or 4 people responsible for a client. So this is much more easier for the client to heal, to talk about what type of problems they are having. So virtual platforms are very effective for several kinds of things, and also a lot of learning happens because teams are sharing what they learn from their own practices, and it can be sometimes very much organized around a certain topic. So these become then e-learning modules in that system. Another interesting thing about the coaches is that the coaches have this nursing background, so they know what the nurses are talking about. Where are they and where are we heading? You see, they almost cover the whole Netherlands. And there is a lot of international focus. At Buurtzorg, we receive a lot of questions from several countries. And at the moment, there are 25 countries working along the Buurtzorg way, in one way or the other, experimenting with some of the philosophies. We are active in several countries, and some of them like Sweden, Japan, China, USA, and currently also in UK. I told you about the virtual platform. That's a strength, but another strength is what we call the onion model, where we put the client at the center. And if we put the client at the center, we believe that the client, families, of neighbors, of all other type of caretakers. So as a team, you respect that network and you try to see how to mobilize that network. It's a very informal way, so people are easy in asking questions to each other. And also, Jos de Blok shares sometimes his concerns, and then a lot of interaction happens. So that's their way of communication. And it is also organized in such a manner that as a leader, you know what is happening, what is the productivity of each team. You can have a look just every day. So it's also related to the business information system. Okay, there are proven outcomes, just a few of them. Why is it so interesting? Buurtzorg is the client satisfaction is very high. Employee satisfaction is very high. There is a tremendous growth when you see at the number of clients coming to us. If you see at the number of employees. But the most interesting thing is that, of course, the care can be done in with less euros. And at the same time, we have a more higher educated personnel. So they are getting a higher salary compared to the average, you would say. And still, we can deliver the care in such a way that it's cheaper. And that has to do with all the features that I talked about. And one of the main features is, of course, that the nurses work as generalists. And they can perceive the client as a whole person. And they can see what is really required and how to be efficient with the resources. This is another way of looking at Buurtzorg results. We have been, for 5 years, the best employer of the year, and productivity compared to other healthcare organizations is higher. Okay, what is my role? I've been working for Buurtzorg now as a researcher. Sometimes I help them in the international strategy, developing some material for the franchising part. But I was very much interested as a researcher to see what is it then behind what we are seeing as the main explanation of their success. Then I ended up saying that this is a way of organizing in such a manner that the people think differently. I call it integrating simplification. I shared already a few examples of how the business model has been simplified, how the organization structure is simplified without hierarchies, but all is integrated. It's not only focusing on one aspect. The main aspects they focus on is the mindset of the people working there, the organizational architecture with all these virtual platforms, but also the leadership. What is leadership at Buurtzorg? Jos de Blok can't be there in all the teams, so the decision-making power is at the team level, the daily decision-making power. But when it comes to strategic decision-making, it's at the headquarters. So there is a clarity in vision, because all has to do with the higher purpose of serving the client in the best possible way. So that's the binding element for everyone working at Buurtzorg. They want to connect to this higher purpose. So the leader is able to share this higher purpose in such a simplified way that everyone feels connected. And there is, behind this way of working, there is this system of thinking, which I called rethinking, needing, and common sensing. And I would like to explain that with the next figure. It is, at Buurtzorg, accommodation. If you look at learning theories, there are a lot of systems of learning. But here I'm just looking at the two most popular ones, assimilation, accommodation. And assimilation is when you have your existing theories or way of working, and whatever you come across, you like to fit in that frame of reference, that frame of working. And this is what we are used to do in many organizations. We have a policy in an organization, and that's a way of working which we use, of course, if as a professional nurse you are trained in a certain way, so you have been trained in certain ways of thinking, you use that. But what they do very cleverly at Buurtzorg is the process of accommodation, saying that, okay, we know how to serve the client, but at the same time, it's not that we are fixed in our existing frames of reference. We are opening up to what we see in practice. So what they see in practice becomes the driving force of changing their paradigms, their systems of thinking. So then whatever they see, whatever they do, they start immediately rethinking of, can it be done differently? What is really going on if they come at a client's place? Not just think of, okay, this is the protocol, this is what we need to do, what is really going on? And then they see, okay, what is it that they require here? What are the needs? And how can we mobilize the resources that are already available in the neighborhoods? And the third thing is common sensing, because they need to be very pragmatic in finding solutions for all these daily problems. So I think this is a very distinctive characteristic of Buurtzorg. If you look at self-management, it's not new that it's something totally new. It has been there for a few decades already. At the moment, there are so many other companies in the Netherlands experimenting with it. So it is there. But what makes it distinctive is integrating simplification, working at several levels, integrating the things. And it's so much integrated that the thinking pattern is very close to the practice. In my book, I describe this in detail, so here I just mentioned them. I found more than 40 indicators to explain the success. So all these indicators can be copied, most of them. So then you would say, okay, so we can create many Buurtzorgs. But at the long term, it's not about copying these indicators. It's about a mindset that needs to be changed drastically. Of course, we have received a lot of attention, and mainly the attention now from abroad to learn what to do, because many other countries are facing the same problems. Also, people from Vienna are talking with us to see what they can learn, how they can adopt the model. While studying Buurtzorg and other ways of organizing in other industries, we are building a series of books related to integrating simplification 2.0. And what is it? We want to bring in those elements that makes integrating simplification more sustainable. And we will introduce these three pillars: self-responsibility, self-reliance, self-freedom. These are concepts that go very close to your inner self. It's connecting to your inner self in such a way that it becomes much more a natural tendency to work in that mindset. In a nutshell, what is the model about? These 3 pillars work as inputs, but at the same time, you need to have a lot of energy, and we know from several spiritual practices we can enhance our energy level. Another important element is dedication, because not only in the nursing profession, but in many other organizations, what is lost is the dedication, the trust. We talk about a lack of trust in many organizations. But it's the dedication, not only the dedication from the employees, but also of the managers, the leaders. It's in both directions. Dedication to what we are doing. Why are we here together? Dedication to the higher purpose of the organization. And the outcomes will not be just like client satisfaction, employee satisfaction, but will be more sustainable in the way that the welfare can be shared with all of us more. It's sustainable happiness. Sukh, that's the concept. Shubh Labh, that's the other concept. So it will be more sustainable. What is the need to think about integrating simplification 2.0? Because we are doing well. And one of the concerns, of course, is when you started with Buurtzorg, his main mantra was humanity above bureaucracy. And what we see now with 14,000 employees, how much bureaucracy is required there. So bureaucracy is not a bad thing if it's being used in a proper way, if it's being contextualized. So the new theory, the new approach that we are writing about is the approach that you embrace the good parts of bureaucracy and you give room for the context where no bureaucracy is required. And why is this important? Because not every organization starts from scratch when they apply Buurtzorg philosophy. There are many existing organizations who want to learn, and they have huge organizations already, sometimes very bureaucratic, structured. So you need to find a middle way. More holistic, bring in more diversity, more perspectives, more purposes, looking at the world as an integrative paradigm, how to connect to people from different worldviews. Global, how to connect to the local culture. So if Buurtzorg philosophy is being applied here in Austria, it should respect the local culture and see what are the local strengths. So this is the main perspective, because if I put here this image and you have a look, you will see the green part, I will see the red part, you will see the yellow part, and you will say, oh, this is the truth. Then we will not have any dialogue, because everyone will be fixed in his own truth. Integrativeness asks for looking at all different perspectives and trying to see what is it that can be created, co-created. How can we integrate worldviews of people involved, of the clients from different backgrounds, maybe different religious background, but also the employees coming from different backgrounds, all the different cultures together with their own belief systems of what is a good care or what is a good way of doing business, because this model is applicable to many industries in order to organize businesses in such a way that there is more happiness, sustainable happiness, and there is more welfare to be shared. I would like to end my presentation again with a mantra, if you allow me. Om Purnamidah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. in the spirit of integrativeness, it's if we see that this is infinite, and that's infinite, if we take out some part of that infinite, what remains will be infinite. So there is an abundance to learn from each other, abundance to have a dialogue to enrich our way of working. Thank you.